Hey man, so what you do during the weekend? And I was just chilling and started to learn French. French? Yeah man, I thought it would be a cool language to learn. But why are you learning French? Statistically, more people speak Mandarin Chinese and Spanish. Why not learn those languages? Hello everyone, welcome back to my French learning journey. This channel is about me recording my French learning journey. It's been a year and a half now, so I'm almost halfway through my second year of learning French. So I'm recording the journey and I'm aiming for 3 years in studying French and see how far I can go by learning 3 years, and hopefully I'll get to the B1 stage, which is more or less the intermediate stage of French. I receive a lot of questions like, out of all the languages in the world, why did I specifically choose French? So first off, there had to be like a catalyst to ignite the interest of me actually choosing and learning French. And that is obviously through great exposure of the language. So where did I get this exposure? Since I was a kid, we lived all around the world due to my dad's nature of his job. We lived in Sudan in Africa, we lived in Switzerland, Geneva. So that was one of the places that I first encountered French as a language. I was around more or less 10 years old at that time, and I stayed in Switzerland for 2 years of my childhood. And during that time, I got exposed to the French language because Geneva was the part of Switzerland that spoke French. And I went to Collège du Le Mans, and even though most of the curriculum was in English, we were surrounded by all these Swiss people and all these Europeans, and a lot of them spoke French. So that was one of my first contacts of the language, my first exposure of the language. And I remember being a kid and I thought, man, that language sounded so cool. I always asked like different phrases from my friends. My friend Matthew, he always taught me like, how do you say this? How do I say it like that? And eventually that really started sparking my interest in the language. And in order to survive more or less in Switzerland itself, in Geneva itself, I learned a couple of phrases from my mom and dad and from school. So when we left Switzerland, I thought that was going to be the end of it. When I went to Malaysia for my secondary studies, there was a French class as well, and I joined that. I started learning bit by bit, but I wasn't that interested because it was in a classroom environment, and I don't really spark interest that much in language learning in a classroom environment. But eventually after that, I went to Australia for my studies, for my university studies, and I met a lot of French people there as well, and I started mingling and I started speaking back in French, and just reminded me of how beautiful the language was again. Really, I came back to Malaysia and I started working in a French company. And in that company itself, there were a lot of French speakers, be it from France, be it from Africa mostly, because there are a lot of countries in Africa who speak French. So it sparked my interest again. And when you start meeting all these people who start speaking the language, I get interested in it. And that's one of the reasons why I learned that language, because of the people I've met throughout my life, the exposure, and the places I've lived in. So that's one of the reasons why I particularly chose that language. So the second reason would be because I found the language really beautiful. Because if you don't find the language beautiful, or you don't find the language interesting, it's gonna be really tough. Because yes, you can say that Mandarin Chinese, Spanish is one of the widely most spoken languages in the world, but if you don't find them interesting, how are you gonna keep on learning those languages in the long run and eventually make it to the intermediate or advanced level? It's because you have to be interested in the language to eventually get to that point, get to that level. So yeah, if you find the language beautiful and interesting enough, then yeah, that's one of the most strongest reasons there could be. Another reason why I'm learning French is because, like any other language learner, they learn a new language because they want to delve in the culture more, because they find it interesting, they want to see more, and eventually it opens up you to a new world. For example, like I have strong interest in the French culture, like the cinema, the books, the BDs, the food. So other than Hollywood films, when you watch French films, you see a different side of cinema. Like it's more real, it's more raw. Those things are really interesting to watch. Like it's a whole new world that opened up. Since I was small, I used to read comic books, I explored manga as well, and eventually I explored BDs, which is French Belgian comics, French comics, and you find so much more new material once you explore it. Like recently I found Cyprien's book, Roger Sezuma. Yeah, do check out a new language and you'll be surprised what you explore in this world. Not gonna lie, statistics does play a role as well of the languages that you choose, or me specifically, I found that French, it's just a bonus reason. French is the 5th largest number of speakers in this world, so it's a big chunk of people that you can actually have a conversation with. But remember that interest comes first before the statistics of that language, because as I mentioned earlier, you do have to have the interest before you actually select that language, because that's what's going to keep you going at the end of the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of the story that I'm telling of why I chose French in particular to start learning. Do share in the comment section below of the reasons why you chose the language that you're learning now. Is it because you find it beautiful? Is it because you have somebody close to you? Anyway, do like and subscribe if you like to join the journey. See ya.